We have been married for almost 5 years, spoken to couples who have been married for 25 years plus, and we have helped counsel many couples. If we could go back and give advice to ourselves before we got engaged, this is what we would say. When I wanted to propose to Shari, I asked advice from a lot of people. 6 people to be exact. 4 people said yes. 2 people said no. It was intense. I'll tell you why. I asked the 2 people, why did you say no? Because I had 4 people who said yes. It felt very confusing to me. I don't know if you've ever been in that same situation. And when they came back to me, I couldn't help but think, who are you to tell me not to marry this girl? Why are you saying this right now? I started to feel so angry and something started to well up in me. And then I ended up asking myself, why am I acting like this? Why am I so angry? And I realized that I must be placing more emphasis on proposing right now than I needed to do. I was more obsessed than I needed to be. Which leads on to the next point. I felt so ready to propose to Shari, but the advice that I was getting at the time was telling me the opposite. How could I reconcile that? I realized that I was obsessed. I started to listen to the advice I was getting and they were actually right. At that time, I was studying and I hadn't actually gotten a job yet. So I was missing out on a crucial part that was important before I go ahead and propose to Shari, which is making sure that we would be financially stable in our marriage. And so I ended up proposing to Shari 9 months later. It was clear that we both weren't ready at the time that I wanted to do it.
I had a very clear plan in my mind when we first started dating. We'd date for 6 months and then he'd propose. And then 3 months later, we'll be married. That was my timeline. I was like, we are not dating for a long time. We're gonna be in and out. We're gonna be married like within a year. 9 months in, there was no ring. And I just started getting obsessed. Any date I'd get really dressed up and I'd be like, this is it. You know, the whole, he's gonna tie down his shoelaces and I'm like, he's proposing. And then at some point after about 3 dates and no proposal, I didn't even look forward to the dates anymore because I'm like, I get all excited. I'm like, okay, it's gonna happen, or he's coming to London, this is it. And nothing is happening. And so I had to really check my heart. And I am even grateful to my mentor at the time who really helped me to just ask me the questions about, I mean, are you even enjoying your dating relationship right now? Or are you just focused on, you're trying to get married, you're trying to, get engaged? And I had to actually take a step back and actually enjoy the step by step. In that time, I grew closer to God and I was able to be more rooted and to trust God in the process. Because at some point I was thinking, okay, maybe I should call off this relationship. It's not gonna, because it's not happening in my time. I needed to trust in God. And 9 months later, when finally he proposed, it was the best time because he'd passed his pre-reg, so he was in a great place. And then we started planning and it was just, everything just fell into place. But it wasn't my time, definitely, but it was the best time. It was the right time. It was God's timing.
As men, we're called to lead. We're called to be the one who leads the relationship. However, have you ever felt paralyzed by that? Have you felt like you had to be perfect in everything, that you have to lead everything, that you can't let your partner even touch anything because you need to lead? You see, sometimes I was tempted to feel that way. However, that's not what God calls us to do. He never called us to be perfect. Only Jesus Christ was perfect. But what he did call us to do was to be intentional. In relationships, there will be problems. And as men, I gotta say it, as men, our natural tendency is just to sit back and just be a bit lazy with how we deal with problems. However, what God calls us to do is to be intentional in how we come together as a couple. As men, we initiate we initiate those times to solve problems. If there's a important thing that you need to do as a couple and you need to work out, you initiate that time. But it doesn't mean that your partner doesn't have any input. But it does mean you need to initiate. You need to be a man of initiative.
For us women, it's really important for us to have confidence in our partner being a leader. And one of the ways we can feel confidence in that is knowing our partner is humble. We know if our partner is getting advice, is listening to advice, doesn't try to solve everything by themselves. When we were dating, the couple that were kind of mentoring us, Isaiah would get time, because he was from Manchester, I was in London, so he would get time with the brother in London. And he would normally come in maybe earlier, they'd get time. So I knew that he was having this time with his brother, and it can be really fruitful time, and just a time that I know that he can ask for advice, and so he's able to lead because he's also getting input, and he's not just doing everything out of his own wisdom. And at the same time, I was getting advice from the sister, and being open about my life, and she was great. She was always like, just focus on your relationship with God and put God first. That you have to take care of that. You have to put God first. So a way we can be confident is your partner humble and getting advice? When you have arguments or you have differences of opinions, how do you resolve it? Do you call each other names? Do you have a shouting match? Do you feel like you talk but you're not heard? Like, how do you resolve those kind of conflicts? That's really important, because those are the foundations of your relationship. If you, at the dating stage, if you can't even really deal with situations where you don't have the same point of view, then how is it gonna get better during engagement, during marriage? So figuring out how you resolve conflict when you're dating is really vital to know whether actually this is the person I need to be with, in long term. Isaiah was amazing. We did have lots of different opinions, different times, but we just sat down and were able to just, okay, you told me your point of view, I tell you what I was thinking, this is how I saw it, this is how you saw it, oh, okay, this is where the misunderstanding was, and we solve it. And even up to today, we've never had an argument or a shouting thing, and we've learned different ways to just communicate and get to the point. But it was so important that I was very confident when he proposed that I can tell him anything and we can talk through it, and it doesn't have to be that I'm worried or I'm scared that I'm not going to be heard.
Ephesians 5:21 actually calls us to submit to one another. A lot of the time we talk about the woman submitting to the man's leadership, but we forget about the fact that first we've got to submit to one another. That means no one's winning. No one should be winning an argument over the other, because we're meant to actually first submit. That means submitting your will. Sometimes we're just trying to push our will, push our ego, push our agenda, but you've got to realize, try and submit first, and you see how God will bless that relationship. So learn this first before you try and move on to the next stage.
You're dating. Have you planned an event together? Have you even tried to plan a date together? What you want to do? This is actually important, because one of the biggest things you're going to plan if you get engaged is your wedding. And trust me, that can be really stressful. There are so many differing opinions. There's so many moving parts. And if you don't know how to plan something together, this can actually tear you apart. So this is a good thing to practice when you're dating. Plan lots of stuff. Like if you're part of a church community, plan events for singles. We used to plan group dates and try and do things like that. What else did we plan?
Plan our dates. We decided how that would go, and we had a whole document on how we will go about doing our dates, and even date ideas and so on and so forth. That was fun.
Yes.
We even made playlists together and just had lots of fun ideas on how to plan.
Absolutely. So plan stuff together. It really shows you how well you work together. And even apart from the big wedding planning, marriage is full of plans you need to do together, honestly. I mean, we're planning how to do a whole YouTube channel, and it's about how do we communicate, and it's easy when you're by yourself and you just have your own ideas and you just do whatever you want. But then when you're two, then it's two different ideas kind of coming together. So it's very important to plan stuff. Are you a functioning team?
First of all, I'm a pharmacist, and at the time I was proposing to Shari, I was doing a year in industry. Now, the key point at the end of the year of industry is to choose where I would go for my full-time job. And Shari and I were long distance. I lived in Manchester. Well, actually, I lived in Peterborough at the time, and Shari lived in London. And we had been itching and aching to be closer to one another for so long. But I wanted to propose to Shari. So I made the decision that I'm gonna just choose all my places in Manchester, which is further away from London. London to Peterborough was shorter than London to Manchester. So I was moving further away when we were aching to be closer to one another. And I only made this decision because I knew I was gonna propose to Shari. And so I was already thinking of where we would stay as married, as a newlywed couple. However, that was a huge mistake. And this is how it made Shari feel.
Also, this is the time where my 9 months plan is not happened. And now I'm thinking, okay, he's got to choose places to work. So maybe he might try and choose one in London, then we can be short distance. And then he just tells me, no, I chose all my options in Manchester. And I'm thinking, okay, so you just think we're going to be dating forever? And like, do you even want to like move to the next stage? Did you even consider that long distance is not easy, that I'd want short distance? And it just made me feel really frustrated and actually hurt, because I was thinking, I thought you'd want us to be closer, but then you're actually moving away. And this is more permanent because you're now moving from there, you're going to a job. So you can't just up and leave immediately.
Yeah, so the important thing is that obviously because of our boundaries, we don't talk about marriage. So obviously don't tell your partner that you're going to propose to them. However, you need to remember to keep an effective communication with your partner, because your partner is not a mind reader. And that is what I didn't do, and I would implore you guys not to do.
It doesn't even happen after you're married. Still can't read his mind. I've been trying.
Yep. How long can we stay in the car before we get intimate? How much can I touch before she minds? Our boundaries are strong. Surely we can watch a movie together by ourselves. We love each other so much, so it only makes sense for us to talk about the next stage. Why do we need to protect ourselves from that? If you are asking yourself these questions, or this sounds like your relationship, you are pushing boundaries. You're not ready to move on to the next stage. If you want to know why, look forward to our video on overcoming loss. 8 months into getting engaged, we had sorted everything out. We had 500 people who were going to go to our church wedding. We had 200 people who were going to go to our reception/party. We were so excited. And then COVID hit. We were at a stage where you couldn't meet with more than 3 people. And so we ended up getting married with just us 2 and my brother. And
a neighbor.
And then we had a neighbor as well who actually helped us get our Wi-Fi and get a laptop, spare laptop on the day. So shout outs to that neighbor, because without him, we wouldn't have finished off our wedding, our Zoom wedding that we did. But problems will occur during your engagement. This was devastating to us because it was not what we had in mind. However, when we realized that a 3-chord strand can never be broken, all that matters is me and you and God. We realized that why should we care about all the numbers? Why should we care about all the people who would have been at our wedding? As long as you can remember this, you will protect yourself from future problems that will happen. So try and remember that a 3-chord strand cannot be broken.
A fond memory I have when we were dating was once we spent time with a couple friend of ours, and they had a little baby, and I saw Isaiah holding the baby, and it was the first time I saw him with a kid, and I thought, wow, I can actually picture you as the father of my children. And that's one of the first moments I knew that, okay, I can see myself actually being married to him, and I can see him as my husband. So it's so important, to see even the qualities that he's going to make a good dad, how he was caring, how he was looking after the baby. And it was a really small baby. I think she was about 3 months old. She was really tiny and so adorable. But it was a really important moment to just see that I can envision having a family with you. So if you can't even picture that with the person you're with, maybe it's not time for you to be engaged. Ladies, don't come for me. I'm going to say something. It might sound controversial, but let's talk about it, okay? The ring doesn't matter. I know. Let's calm down. Listen to me. When we were dating and Isaiah was hopefully going to propose at one point, I thought about the ring. I went online. I found the ring I wanted. I sent it to my friend. I was like, it's going to be like this. It might sound contradictory because I know a lot of friends out there have been asking you, what kind of ring do you want? So if you're ever to get engaged, I'll tell the guy. But in hindsight, it's not that deep, actually. The ring symbolizes Isaiah's a commitment, eternal commitment to me, for marriage, for life. And it's not really about what it looks like, what it does, unless it actually reacts with your skin. We put too much focus on how big the diamond is, how much it costs, what it means, and it can't be this, it can't be that we actually start to forget the reason why it's so important and what the commitment is saying. And the fact that Isaiah wanted to spend his life with me, that is what I should have been focusing on. So it doesn't matter. The rings are still beautiful, and we can find beauty in everything, and I find beauty in the fact that he wanted to share his life with me, and that we were able to have a great marriage at the moment, and prayerfully, for the rest of our lives. So please don't attack me too much, ladies. I'm sorry.
We hope you enjoyed the video. As always, please put your video ideas in the comments down below, and we'll look at them, and we'll hopefully do it in our future videos.
You must join us in the next video. We are talking about lust. It's deep. Let's do it. See you next time.
Let's go.